Welcome to the Intriguing Beings podcast with me, Rue Chater. Season 2, Episode 10 with Noè Font. So this week I've got an episode with a young lad called Noè. He's definitely the youngest guest I've ever had on the podcast, and I wouldn't normally go out of my way to speak to the younger generation. That's not an ageist thing. I just think sometimes some of the most interesting stories come from people who've been around the sun a few more times than some of us. And Noè's an interesting character. He kind of burst onto the scene a good few years ago, initially as a freestyle kite surfer, and then moved into the park riding scene and was hanging out with the likes of Craig Cunningham and Colleen Carroll and some of the duotone crew. He's a pro rider for duotone, but more than that, he's an incredibly talented filmmaker. He actually, a few years ago, put together one of the first feature-length kitesurfing movies that the sport's seen in a long time, called The Bubble, which you can check out online, I believe, these days. If you haven't got a copy, then go and watch it. It's an interesting insight into the life of pro riders with a bit of a tongue-in-cheek take on some of the ridiculousness that goes with it, I guess. And Noè's a really interesting character. He's so young, yet when you meet him, you kind of think he's a 35-year-old guy because of the way he carries himself and the way he talks, and also the peers that he hangs out with are considerably older than him too. So it's easy sometimes to just forget that he's actually still just a kid, essentially. But it's great to see someone who's looked up to his mentors and followed in their footsteps and is just a really genuine, rounded, down-to-earth guy with an incredible amount of talent on the ocean. He surfs as well to a pretty high standard, and his filmmaking is some of the best around, and you can tell that from the way that he's had the support from duotone with his movies and some of the things that he's created. So without getting into far too much chat from me this time around, let's just get into this week's episode with Noè Font. So this afternoon I'm sat with a young gentleman by the name of Noè Font, who originates from España, and he's burst onto the kiteboarding scene. He's still quite a young rider, but he's exceedingly talented, and his career, which has been rather short so far, I guess, has been a bit star-studded in terms of what he's done and the things he's achieved, and I thought he'd be an interesting person to chat to. You might have heard of him from the movie called The Bubble, which was released last year. Yeah, I think it was last year, wasn't it? I'm trying to remember. Was it the year before? No, I think it was last year. No, maybe it was the year before.
It was
the year before.
At the end of
2017.
Yes.
In like October time, like quite late.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was released back then, and it was kind of at the time the first full-length kiteboarding movie that we'd seen for a while. So, Noè undertook that project and sold it to duotone as something he wanted to work on, and then he came good, and that's quite an impressive move for someone of such young stature, I think, anyway. So, Noè, first question before we get on to that. How did you get into water sports? Because I know you surf quite a bit as well, don't you? So
yeah, I think, water sports, kiting. I got into kiting first when I was like 8 years old because of my dad. He's always been into like the cool extreme sports, like whatever was going on at the time. He like started hang gliding when he was 17.
Oh wow!
And then did that for his whole life, and then kiting came along, and obviously a lot of friends and people from that scene like got into it, so he kind of like jumped on that boat and got into kiting, and then started a little kite school in my hometown. Run that for 3 or 4 years, but at the time there were so many like restrictions at the beach and stuff, and it didn't really work out.
Where's home for you?
My town's called Empúria Brava, like north of Barcelona in the Costa Brava. Yeah, and yeah, so that didn't really work out, but he still had all the gear from the kite school in the shop. So I like started flying little trainer kites, maybe when I was like 5 or 6, but didn't really like go through with it until like 8 or 9 years old. And the wind's good at home, but it's not consistent. So it took me like a year to like from the day I went in the water until I could go upwind.
Okay.
You know? So it was like a really long
learning curve.
Yeah. But then I still remember the day I first went upwind, and I was like, I'm one of the boys, you know, like, with all the local people in my spot, yeah.
And you got it. Is it quite a popular spot for kiteboarding where you're from?
Yes, because it's still very restricted, like in the summer and stuff. So people from like Barcelona area drive
up to your spot,
up to where we live, and we get better wind, and it's in a bay, so you get different directions, and yeah. And I mean, I live like an hour away from Locat.
Yeah.
So with the Tramontana wind, we just drive up there. So you have options, and you can pretty much kite whatever you want.
Yeah. So you can always kind of.
Yeah. If you're willing to drive, you could probably kite every day in like a 2-3 hour radius. But obviously, at 9 years old, you can't really drive anywhere.
You have to go where your dad's taking you.
Yeah.
And did you, because your sister kites as well, doesn't she?
Yeah, she really took a long time to learn. In the beginning, I remember just going kiting, and she just didn't care at all. And then for a while, she kind of like tried it, but then just didn't really like it. She hated the jellyfish. Like in my home spot, we get tons of jellyfish in the summer, like the big ones that don't really like do anything, but she just hated it.
Float around looking nasty.
And then I don't know, she just like learned one summer and then like got super into it, and now she's like fully into it, trying to like compete and make it a thing as well.
Yeah, so. She's quite competitive. When did you start realizing, like when did it go from something fun that you wanted to do because your dad did it into like, I've got some skills at this, I could maybe start doing some competitions and stuff like that?
I don't think I ever like thought, I think it just went from like kiting school to like me like not assuming I've kind of like always known that I've wanted to do this like ever since I started, and it was like in my head like an obvious thing, like yeah, of course I'm gonna like do this and compete, and I don't know if I'm gonna be good or not or what I'm gonna do, but
that's my goal.
That's what I'm gonna do. Like there's no doubt. Like I never really like had that doubt. I did not know how I was gonna do it, but you know, that was like always a thing. And I remember like starting to think, like how could I go into like the Spanish nationals? Like what is it about? What tricks do I need to like go there? You know, like at that point I didn't know how small kiting was and how like, you know, really it doesn't really matter at like a national level. You don't have to like go through the ranks to like get to, you can basically enter a world tour event and no one knows who you are, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, it just kind of happened. I think I was on like a weekend trip with my family, and there was like a comp going on, just like a local event, and I entered, and like I think I did like an S-bend and got second. And I was like, this is cool, like, I'm gonna do it again. And then just went to like the junior Europeans in France that they've been running for like 20 years or something, like Yuri and Gisela and Kevin, they all used to go there when they were younger.
Come up through those events.
I feel like everyone in kiting or like in the European scene's gone through that event and did that, and then just Spanish nationals, and like just slowly like started
working your way up.
Yeah.
And what sort of age were you when you were starting to, you know, do well at the Spanish nationals and get on podiums?
Well, the thing was, because there were the like kids, junior, and like over 18 disciplines. For some reason, I was like 2 years younger than Liam and Jerome and those guys, so I would always be in the discipline under, like throughout all of the junior stages. So I would hang out with them and kind of like be at the same level at the time.
And then go and compete.
I would have to compete against the younger, so it was like way easier for me than it was for them, you know. So I kind of like had it easy that way. But I mean, they have to draw the line at some age, right? So I just got lucky with that.
At some point, you've got to be just decided that you're only 14, so you're in the 14 age category rather than the 16 age category.
Totally.
And is it because Spain's quite a big country, and obviously you've got Tarifa down in the south, which is such a popular spot for kiting and where most people think about it, and your spot is like way up in the northeast on the Mediterranean side. Was there anyone at your spot that you could look up to and sort of see what moves were possible with kiting and things like that, or did you have to kind of watch videos and travel to kind of get that inspiration?
Obviously, you get most of your inspiration from videos like Aaron and like all of those guys back in the day, but there were a few like good like OG riders in my home spot that could like do some handle passes and stuff. But from my area, at the time you had like, I don't know if you remember Patrick Blanc.
Yeah.
He still kind of rides a little bit, but used to ride for Ozone, and then David Tony Juan.
Yeah,
he's been all over the place with brands, and then we had like a little bit of a tight crew that would, kite together and kind of like drive to France if we needed to for a few sessions, or like try to travel together a little bit. And with them, it just kind of like how it all started, and we're all at the same level and just kited just as much, and I don't know, learn the basics. And I still, like, when I go home, like, try to link up with them and session if we can.
Hang out and
go for a totally.
Kite. And did you get down to Tarifa quite a bit as well? Like, did you sort of go and spend summers there, or were you just not really bothered by that scene?
Not really. Like, well, first of all, because at that age, it's either you go with your family or you don't go. And, like, I don't know, my parents didn't really, like, have the money to, like, go on trips like that or spend money like that way.
Especially when you got a great beach at home.
Yeah, well, yeah. No, but if they would have had the money, we would have totally done that. But yeah, all of those, some of my friends from that group started going to Brazil in like the Christmas holidays and from school and like stuff like that. And one year I like got invited by one of them to like come, and that was like the first year I ever went to Brazil, and like went out there, learned so many new tricks, came back, and then that was like the year that I like went into the junior like events and just like won them all and got like myself on the map. And then at the time, I was riding for Best, and they like, saw the potential and whatnot and gave me like a proper deal and a contract and stuff, and just like they say, took the ball and run with it.
Start running with it.
Yeah.
How old were you at that stage? Like when you did your first trip to Brazil?
13, I think. 13 or 14.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so I went there with my friend and his dad, who...
Chaperone.
My friend's dad has been there maybe like 30 times at this point or something, so he knows like all this. At the time, he knew all the spots and stuff. And yeah, just kind of like got lucky with that, I guess, and that was a bit of like
the little kickstart that you needed.
Yeah.
What do you think is so good about Brazil that enables riders to go there and transform so much?
Well, you just like, you kite just as much, or like for me, I probably kited just as much in the past, like in the 6 months prior to that, than in those 3 weeks that I went there for, because you just like wake up and kite whenever you want, and just that like consistency that you get. And when you're like starting to learn the basic tricks, it really helps to like find your like muscle memory and where you want to be, and like
just be
get
doing
that
it
little
over and over over and over again.
Now you just like know so well where you are in the air, where the kite is, what you need to do, and it's just like you don't need, like I feel like I don't need to kite as much to like stay consistent or like do those
because you just kind of
tricks,
feel it.
But yeah.
And what was your sort of best result when you were competing? Obviously.
Well, yeah. So like after that, I don't know if I think I had won some like Spanish nationals, but after that I won the like junior like world championships that luckily were like right like next door from my hometown, like 20-minute drive, just had the hometown advantage or whatever. I think, won that like twice, and then the European junior championship. So yeah.
And did you ever step up to the adult world
events?
So
like that same year, I like got a wild card to go to Fuerte and did that. But I was good to be in the junior worlds, but not really quite there to like compete against everyone else in the like main leagues. But Best really wanted me to like push for that and compete and stuff. So I like did that. I did like almost the full tour for like 2 years, and by the end of it I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if this is what I want to do. Like I was like going to events and like thinking to myself, oh, why am I going there if I don't have the level to like go win? Like I think I like my best result was like a 5th in Tarifa once with like crazy wind, and I remember I could do like a whole bunch of like toe side tricks before they kind of like started when they were scoring, but not many people were doing them. So I just did a whole bunch of toe side tricks and got 5th, but really like with normal conditions, like I didn't have the level. And I was like, oh, like I don't really want to do this. I want to like get more into like the media side of things, like creating content and making movies. And I started hanging out with Sam Medeski at the time and going on a few trips with him, and went to like visit him in Canada once, and we did like a rail project with like homemade rails and stuff. And that was like my first go at like park riding with a kite, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, and like it lets you like free ride a lot more and like create media. So I started getting into that, and then just
takes you away from being that competition machine where you're just training to do certain tricks all the time.
And for a while, like the whole freestyle thing's been really like stale and all about like as it started like progressing, they like went from having to do as many tricks as possible to like a smaller box, 7 tricks, and then it went down to 5, and I think now it's like down to 4 tricks, and it's just like everyone's doing the same 4 tricks because that's how you get the points, and it's all turned into this like ball of like not really getting out of the box, kind of like just training those 4 tricks. And
kind of like ice skating, go and do the moves.
I can't really do any of those tricks, so I mean, respect for doing those, but at the same time, you can call the tricks you're going to see before the heat even starts. So
that they're going to go and do X, Y, Z, because that's the highest scoring tricks, and that then gets the results.
It gets kind of boring to like watch unless you're like Bebe or Liam or one of those guys.
You're super into it and fully on it. And then, so park riding for you is probably where, your career's gone in a big direction before we start talking about the media side of it. And there's been quite a few people, influences. You've mentioned Sam, Craig, hanging out with Colleen and the Duotone crew, and Aaron and those guys. How did that all sort of feel? You're obviously still quite young at the time, and a lot of those guys are a fair bit older. Did they sort of take you under their wing a little bit as a new protege for park riding?
Yeah, a little bit. Like, I think the first time I went to the States to like fully do the whole park riding thing, I think I was 16, and I went with Sam Medeski, and we did like a road trip down like the East Coast, and then spent like 2 months in Hatteras just trying to like get some park sessions in. And I think we got like 2 days of wind in 2 months, or like it was like so bad. But yeah, that year I did like the open to like try to get into Triple S, but I got second, and they were only letting the first person go in. So I was there and met everyone, like hung out with everyone and rode with everyone, but
didn't get into the event.
Didn't get into the event. And at the time already I had met most people like in Brazil and like other places, so like ever since I've been kind of like the Grom of like the crew.
Did they ever play any tricks on you, or were they all quite nice? It's always tough being the youngest.
It's always like a topic, this one, because everybody, like, what they always say is that, yeah, you're like the Grom, but we can't really give you shit because you're not like, you don't act like a Grom, or like you don't, I don't know, carry yourself as one. And I'm like filming all the time and doing all this stuff, so they can't really give me shit for like not doing anything or being useless or like not knowing how to like, don't know, cook or something, because I can already like do all those things because I've been like kind of like on my own for like quite a few years already. Time, so it's like,
it's not like you're the 16-year-old that's just left home or anything. You're already going to Brazil when you were 13 and exactly. Doing all this kind of stuff. So
and I kind of like always have something like hold back on them, like, you're gonna give me shit, I'm gonna keep those clips I got of you, like, or something like that.
Have a bit of armory to hold over.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, park riding's changed quite a lot over the years, and it's developed and it's become quite a lot bigger. It used to be a real fringe side of the sport. What do you think's driven that development in terms of it becoming more accepted and brands recognizing it as something? You mentioned that Best just wanted you to do the competition scene. Now you've got a brand like Duotone that's quite happy for a whole bunch of riders just to do park riding.
Well, with Duotone, it's always been about supporting all sides of kiteboarding, and like the slogan, like true kiteboarding, is like that includes all everything. Kiteboarding. So obviously they're going to support park riding and big air and freestyle and all the other disciplines. But for park riding itself, I think it's probably grown so much because the people behind it are also so into creating media and like growing the sport that way, that it just naturally like grew the park riding like side of the sport bigger. But maybe also because of the cable parks being like such a big thing now, and like you can pretty much go wakeboarding at the cable park and do the same thing anywhere in the world these days. So
and then transfer that over to the kite.
Into kiting. But it still is such a small like side of the sport, and it being like fully like looked after and like pushed by riders with like right now you got all this like the GKA running their own tour and stuff. Like we're still so independent, doing our own thing, and like we're not trying to like make it the most like viral, commercial, public, like appealing site. Like we're not trying to sell anything. We're just like doing our own comps and events.
Because
and if you care to follow park riding, good, like sweet. If you don't, there's plenty of other things you can follow. Like we're not trying to sell out to like become this massive tour or anything. Like it's whatever, like.
Yeah, it's just something.
In the end, like half of the time, I just feel like we go to the events, and the events are just the excuse to like get together and ride and like make it, like justify it to yourself. But really, we're all just there to like ride and
have a good time.
Learn new tricks and just have a good time. Like you really see it if you go to like one of our events or like any other event. It's like everyone's there for like the sessions, not really for the contest.
Yeah, the scoring's just an afterthought of. It legitimizes why you've all bothered to pay all the money to get there and put all the kit together and build it all, and then you've got something you can.
The scoring's there just to like split the money at the end. That's it. And
how was the because there was a new event on the tour this year, the Kite Mansion Brazil. How was that?
Oh that was good. Like that was a step that had to happen at some point. We've always,
because everyone's always in Brazil, right? So it just kind of made sense, I guess, to put something together.
We always said how good it would be to have like especially a kicker in a good spot with like the best wind, and now we have it. Like it's gonna do so good for progression and new tricks. And already with the kite, there's like tricks that we're doing that wakeboarders aren't really doing, because we have the kite and we can go like so much bigger without sacrificing like hard landings and stuff. and obviously you get the freedom of the kite and doing whatever you want around the park, you know. It's not like you're like doing laps in a circle or something. So yeah, like having a park in Brazil is something that had to happen at some point, and I'm glad it has. And yeah, the event was really good, and I think everyone's like looking forward to like more rails and new tricks next year.
Yeah. You know? And do you get involved with helping build some of these parks and putting things together as well? I know you mentioned you did with Sam back in the day, but
yeah, it's definitely like a big part of it, and probably like the reason why not that many people get into park riding is because you gotta build it, carry it, float it, anchor it, drag it, change the angle again and again, and it never works really. But yeah, like with Duotone, at every photo shoot, like at every Vegas photo shoot, we're building a new feature or like trying to innovate that way. And also like at home, I built a kicker last year and I have it sitting there just waiting for when I'm there and there's a good wind in like one of the river mouths to like
and just wheel it out
yeah,
go and hit it.
Yeah. And in Brazil, like we built a 12 meter, like maybe like 10 centimeter wide metal handrail like 2 years ago that is just like the hardest rail to hit ever. But you know, we have it there and ride it sometimes, and I don't know, it's always a mission to like make it happen. You can get lazy with it and just ride in like Hatteras and Hood River where everything's perfect.
All there.
And yeah.
Do you prefer riding somewhere like Hatteras or Hood River where it's all there and it's all perfect, or do you prefer going somewhere and creating something and then hitting something that you've built?
Well, both sides have their like, what do you call it? Like, if you go to Hatteras and like have a good session, it's not as rewarding as when you like build the park yourself, make it happen, the wind lines up, and then you like get the tricks and the clips, and obviously that's a lot more rewarding. But
equally, it's nice like, just to rock up
and
get a bunch of stuff and then go and have a cold beer.
I guess, yeah.
Depends on how much effort you wanted to put in. And obviously, you know, it's touched on the filmmaking a little bit because that's, you know, been a huge part of your career. And you mentioned earlier that when you were sort of thinking about the competition scene, you were a bit more interested in the media side of it. How did that come about? You know, you're obviously pretty young when that was happening. You know, did you have friends that were into it? Was there someone that you looked up to who did it, or was it just something that you were, because you've been watching all these kite videos, you were then like, I want to start making that?
Totally. That, like, when I went to Brazil for the first time on that first trip, I already made like 3 videos from that trip with my friend. Like, I had like a shitty like Canon T2i or something, and with one lens and like a metal tripod with like, you know, and then I had like some waterproof like knockoff GoPro like thing and that I got given from someone, and I just like made a whole bunch of videos there. And it was always like, oh, I'm watching all these cool videos from like James and Aaron and like Tom and who knows, you know, and I'm like, that's fucking cool. I want to be that and not do that, but like I want to have my own cool videos. So, you know, started like making them and trying to like make some edits and stuff and get some clips, and it just like slowly grew into like a bigger thing. And then for a while when I was like competing so much and stuff, I didn't really like do it, but then I like picked it up again a little bit and just took it to like
the next level. So you had that sort of first impetus when you were 13 going to Brazil, and then competitions got in the way.
Yeah, pretty much. And with photos, like I've always like shot photos of like friends, and not so much action, more of just like little things here and there, like carrying like a little film camera around, just taking photos of whatever goes on outside of the water. So yeah, it kind of like, with traveling and kiting and stuff, you're like exposed to like to so many things and cool places and people, and it's cool to like, you know, have those like
document
memories,
it and take them home. And then you know, making a kite movie is a big job. You know, it's not easy. A lot of people think, oh, making a good kite movie isn't easy.
Yeah, making a kite movie is easy.
You can make one that's pretty easy, but making a good one is quite hard. What's the process for you? Do you storyboard it and work out what you want to do, or do you just film a bunch of clips and then work it out later?
It depends. With like the shorter like things that I've made like for YouTube or whatever, like there was always a bit of a plan, or like a song that you had in mind, or like another video that you watched, like a skate video or something, you're like, oh, I like that vibe, I'm gonna like make something that looks like that, or just things like that. But with like the bubble, that's like the biggest, most longest hard project ever. It kind of just like started with like, oh, kiting sucks, you know, there's no movies anymore, like what is this, someone's gonna do something. And maybe I think we started talking about making a movie or like a full length a year and a half or like 2 before we even like started shooting for it. And it was always like a subject, like, yeah, we should do it, and you know, like you talk about it so much, and then like it came to the point where we're like, we should do it, and then it lined up with like timing in the year, and we're like, yeah, we'll start shooting for a movie. And then like started like writing up like an idea, which was just like, oh, Duotone's keen to support it, cool, I'm gonna like hit up a few of like my friends who are in the team, let's see if they're keen. And then like Craig and Colleen, they were like, yeah, cool, like sweet, sounds good. And then Stefan and Tom and Aaron. But in the beginning of it, it was just like, the concept was kiteboarding movie about people who have different styles, like no concept.
Yeah,
it was just
no real sort of idea.
And then throughout the filming and the trips and stuff, the concept of like the bubble and like how we live in this like kiteboarding industry, pro rider bubble, like came about, and it like started growing, and the ideas started coming on how to like talk about it and, you know, capture this whole thing. And then I remember just like coming towards the end and like editing it, and I was like, oh, and we could have done this, but at that time I didn't know I was gonna make and call it the bubble, so like obviously we didn't film anything
like it, or...
So like the more we got to the end, the more things I had to film to like fill that story up. And yeah, it like snowballed into like this bigger thing. And also at the time when we first started filming, I know because like Craig and them told me afterwards, like they were like, are we really gonna let Noè like do this? Like, because I hadn't really like done anything proper until then.
I mean, how old were you when you started the project, which would have been like 2016, I guess? Like
17, I think.
That's pretty nuts, isn't it?
Yeah.
So 17-year-old
I turned 18 when I was filming the bubble.
So you're like being given the keys to the kingdom to film Duotone's big movie with all the top riders at that age, when most kids are still at school. Like,
yeah, that was kind of like crazy, I guess. I don't know, like I convinced everyone to let me do it somehow. Yeah. I think, so like the first trip we did, it was in Hood River, and I was like, oh, we're gonna start filming for this full length and film. From the start I knew I wanted to make rider parts, like in skating, like that was like set.
Like the snowboard movies, you get your little feature.
Everyone works for their own part, and you know, and I was like, I'm gonna start filming park in Hood River for Colleen, Craig and I. But then I was like, oh, I haven't put out an edit myself for a long time. I'm just gonna use all of my footage and work on an edit. And I did this like video called Melancholy in Cursive.
Yeah.
This like poem in the beginning, and like, I don't know, it just got all artsy and crazy.
Isn't it?
And that kind of like just, once that came out, they were like, like,
that's a pretty good movie. Like, you're not just churning out the average kite edit, right? Because it was a very different film.
And then they like, from then on, they kind of like trusted me more into like the creative side behind the bubble. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know, like we started saying like, oh, are we gonna like premiere it or something? Yeah, I guess we should. Like, where should we premiere it? Well, I don't know. Like, the next thing you know, we have like 14 premieres and like gear giveaways. We're giving away like kites and boards and like all this stuff online at the premieres. Like, I don't know, just
craziness.
Just blew up, yeah. And
exploded from a small idea into this massive thing. At what point did Duotone get like so fully behind it? Because obviously they must have gone, yeah, we'll make a full-length movie, but they didn't know what the concept was, because you didn't know what the concept was. So, you know, at what time did they sort of go, oh wow, this is really big, we need to do a bunch of premieres? They watched it and then gone, this is something that is out the park?
No. Like, it was more our project supported by Duotone. Like,
okay.
It was, we had like full control of whatever we wanted to do, and then from the beginning, just like we get support to like do certain video trips or certain like smaller things, we just basically like collected all of those together, little bits of budget, you know, for like a certain trip. Or like most of the time it was me filming, but sometimes we'd get Vinny or somebody to like come along and like help film like for a week or something. So they just like basically helped us with those things. And then once like the movie was like happening and like a thing, then it was more like, oh, what about, because for that whole year, that's all we did. Like Craig, Colleen, Aaron, Tom, Stefan, myself, all we did was the bubble. No one went on another film trip. No one really
released
did
anything really, or
So yeah, it went kind of quiet. And I guess like for Duotone and the guys at the office, they were kind of like, well, if we don't blow this up, we got nothing else to like, you know. I guess, I don't really know what they thought, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, they've got to like...
We had quite a few like really good premieres and like good feedback, and also linked up with the premieres with like demo tours and stuff. So like it gives people like another excuse to like show up at a boring demo day, you know, like... Yeah,
you're going to get to see a movie as well. So
yeah. And we gave away gear, so like, what else can you ask for?
Yeah, that's going to get one. Where was the biggest premiere?
In Tarifo.
And that was that
was in like September or something.
And how many people did you get along to that?
I don't know, like 700 or 800
no way.
people. Yeah, like we did it at Wet Cafe and cleared up the whole shop inside.
That's a big space inside there.
300 chairs down, and the chairs were full, and then there was like another like 300 people outside who couldn't even see the movie.
But they rocked up.
We like linked it up with a Spain Kite League and the Duotone like distributors meeting or something, and like everyone was there already. Yeah, it's not like they came for our movie. You know? They were kind of like, everyone was in town, so everyone rocked up.
Yeah, but they've still got to make the effort to go out to Wet Cafe and watch the film, right? So
yeah. It was pretty good, that one. And then I did one in my hometown too, where we set up like a big screen and projector and stuff in this like big like park with like a tent and stuff, and like we had maybe something like 300 or 400 people, so that was pretty good too. And then did a whole road trip down the east coast of Australia and did like 4 premieres there with like demo tour sort of setup. So yeah, it was pretty good.
Your parents must have been pretty proud when they saw the movie and premiere in your hometown in a big tent. That's got to be...
Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
I never really asked them, to be honest. Yeah, my dad helped me out a lot when I was like finishing the edit at home and stuff, like organizing. We did like hard copies and posters and like little USB drives with a movie in it and stuff like that. So like all that merch side of things, he kind of like helped out and like made calls and found out.
And how long was the edit? Because you spent the best part of a year filming it. How long did it take to put it all together? Because you must end up with hours and hours and hours of clips, and you've got to sync through it all. Were you kind of trimming stuff as you went and working on sections as you went?
We started filming in like August 2015 2015 or I don't know which year it was, 16, I don't know. We started filming in August and then released it started doing the premieres the next September.
Okay.
But around like March or something, I already started like
working on it,
picking music and like cutting certain sections and like having clips, and like each person's section had like a theme or an idea, and like I already knew like what I needed and what I didn't, and if I had the footage that I needed for a certain section, I would like edit it up. So I was still filming and I already had some parts edited.
Yeah.
But once I was like wrapped up with filming and like done with it, I think I was at home for like 2 months, just like
solid.
Yeah, and the last 3 weeks were just like mental. Like I remember I released the trailer, and then the first premiere was in Hood River like 2 weeks later, and those 2 weeks were just like all day, all night, getting
working
it done. And at one point, during those 2 weeks, I was like, we have this like foil free ride like Caribbean section that wasn't really anyone's. It was just like a trip, and I was doubting if I should like continue and finish that or just cut that and finish the movie. But no, in the end I like pulled it off and I
managed to make it happen.
Yeah.
Did you realise before you said, oh, let's make a full-length movie, how much work it would be? Because it's compared to making a 3-minute web clip, which is what most people do these days, it's got to be, a monumental difference in terms of the task.
At any point from when I decided I was going to do it until I premiered it, I thought to myself, this sucks, I have too much work. At any point, I just like went and did it. Like, I knew I was going to get as busy as I wanted it to be, and I could work on each part or in each minute as much as I wanted to. Like, first we set a deadline for like spring, and the movie premiered in September.
Yeah.
So we're like, set a deadline, pushed it, set another one and pushed it again, and then in the end we're like, no, this is it, bang.
Yeah.
Because also with like traveling and going on like other comps and photo shoots, it's hard to like, sit on the computer and edit.
Keep that focus, yeah.
But yeah, definitely. The hardest part was getting back to that after premiering it and like being done with it and making like the next video. Like I went to Australia for those premieres and then stayed for like the rest of the winter, and like I was trying to get clips and like work on something, but I was just having such a hard time.
No motivation.
Yeah.
Drained.
I had motivation to kite, but
not to film and edit.
Film, like I ended up getting some clips and like working on a bit of an edit that I never put out because I just hated it. Yeah, seriously, it's still like sitting on a hard drive somewhere.
Kind of almost ruined you.
And only just released like my first video after the bubble, like a year after the bubble. Basically went a year without really working on anything serious and just
having a bit of downtime.
Yeah.
But I guess if you spent so long filming and editing, and you probably weren't kiting that much in that time.
No.
Like I remember you were still doing the Kite Park League, and your results weren't, you weren't jumping on podiums and stuff like that because you were so busy doing everything else. So you kind of probably didn't.
Honestly, it was surprising. Like, I did not ride or practice at all for any events, and I think I blew it at Triple S because of some like I just got a 0 in one of the kickers. But like went to Palawan in the Philippines, and we were like in the middle of filming and just like showed up. I was here in Cape Town, flew to the Philippines the day before the event, just showed up and got like 3rd in the event, and I was like, fuck, like,
oh, that's all right. Still
I don't even have to practice. Like, went to Triple S, got like 8th or something, and then in Hood River I got 3rd again, and I was like, damn. And now this year I was like, I wasn't really like practicing that much either, but I was getting way more riding in and had the same results. I was like, damn.
Doesn't make a difference.
But I mean, everyone's riding so good these days, it just kind of like, you depend on the best not riding the best for you to win.
Yeah.
Like, That's how it is.
Because they've stepped up so much.
Yeah, otherwise it's just anyone could win. Like when everyone rides their best, well, there's like 5 people who could
take it down.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so, you know, the bubble been and gone, you've learned a lot from it, obviously. There was quite an interesting sort of vibe to it where it was a little bit tongue-in-cheek and a bit of your humour coming through in certain sections, you know, like here's Craig, he loves carving.
Yeah.
It's just like things like that. And there was certainly a little bit of your personality that came across. Is it something that you'd undertake again, doing a full-length movie, if someone came up to you and said, let's
definitely
do another one?
I think full-length movies like that come when they need to, or like when the time's right, it happens. Otherwise, it doesn't. Like, and then, I mean, if not with just like duotone, I think that the next thing that I'd like to do is, you know, get a few different riders from different brands together and just like focus on one thing, and maybe like, I don't know, like a more like park specific full length, or also like freestyle and other stuff. But like, I like working and filming and like doing the stuff that I'm like behind and like passionate about. So yeah, for sure at some point we'll like make another full length and just see when the time comes and the people are like, you know, keen to like put down the hours, because it you know, it takes a lot of work.
Is it hard sometimes getting the riders to actually go and do the same trick over and over and over, so you get the good one in the can that you know you want to keep?
Well, I try to get it first try, but
sometimes they crash.
Yeah, but the way that I like to work on like Aaron and Craig and stuff, they like always point out is that we don't just like go down to the beach and like film whatever. It's more like you make a list of the tricks you want to get for your part, like be ambitious. Like I don't mind sitting and filming for 4 hours to only get one trick, as long as the person's like trying, you know?
Yeah.
So like make a list of tricks and how you want your part to be and like what do you want to have. And then also it helps that I'm a rider and I know like what tricks look good from what angles and stuff, and we'll just like work on that. When I filmed Aaron's part in Australia, we're going down to the pond in Safety Bay and we're like, okay, today what trick do you want to do? Oh, seatbelt mode 5. Okay, I'm gonna shoot long lens from this. Okay, just go for that. If he rides for 10 minutes and he's like, the wind's bad to the left, we'll shoot to the right. Okay, trying to remember the list. Oh, you wanted to get this, this, and that. Filming from the right angle, getting it right, bam, bam, gets it, tick, tick. Don't have to do this trick
anymore
at all ever again until we finish filming this movie. Like, I don't need 2 of the same trick.
Yeah.
And hopefully your list was ambitious enough that once you get it, you can't just do it again straight away, because it has to be a
real
hard
good
trick,
move.
you know. Yeah. So it was always like, kiteboarding is not something you can stage, but we try to like stage it as much as possible and like get the right tricks from the right angles. And
I guess the riders know what tricks they want to see on camera, right? So if you ask them to make the list and then you just work with your knowledge in terms of filming it from the right angle and making it look good, then that's how you can...
The hardest thing to film is big air and the mega loops, because it's just so unpredictable. Like, maybe they have the wrong gust, the wrong wave, they're gonna pop earlier, or it's just like as random as it could get. You're basically just recording the whole time and
waving
pointing the camera
around,
back and forth and
hoping that you nailed it.
Yeah, definitely.
And who was your favourite person to shoot out of the whole crew?
Tough question.
My next one's going to be, who was your least favourite? So
no, I can't say that. I mean, every trip just had like, you know, different like stories behind, but like I guess like working with Aaron and like really getting to like, you know, hang out and see what how he operates and like gets behind his like part and stuff. That was like pretty cool, more because of like who he is, and like now it's like super casual, right? You're just like good friends and you're just like hanging out.
Yeah, because you were pretty friendly with Craig and Colleen before anyway through the park stuff. So maybe Aaron you hadn't hung out with as much until you did the movie, or
we did, but I don't know, it was just kind of like sick, you know, to like work together and stuff. But everyone just has their own things. Like I'm just lucky to like work with friends and like not have to like deal with like someone who's not a friend, like someone who's not cool or like boring to hang out or something.
Or they're being like, a pain and
I think everyone was like committed to like the idea and just keen to like be a part of a movie. And
did you have any nightmares along the way, like, you know, camera gear getting stolen, stuff getting drenched, things breaking, or did it all kind of go fairly smoothly?
We crashed obviously the drone a few times, and
that's expensive.
Yeah, I don't know if the clip's in the movie, but like Craig's right knee smashed my drone. Just picture that.
Yeah.
Then there's like a clip of it, and it was in Brazil, and the drone just span out and like flew off and then just like recovered. But yeah, no, not really. Camera gear survived, and I think, I'm sure there's stories if we got someone here like Tom or Aaron or Craig or one of them would remember. But I remember filming with a like gimbal out of the window of Aaron's van in like Sea Point down like in Cape Town, and I was like, I don't know, filming like the street or like people or something, and this guy, we're driving pretty fast, but this guy just tried to grab the rig off my hands.
No way.
Just imagine being on the side of the road and a car drives by and you try to like steal someone's cigarette or like he's going so fast it's never gonna work. Like before you even get to grab anything in the car, the car's already gone. So I was like filming and I didn't even see the guy, and I just felt like the camera like being pushed away from me, and I was just like, what? And then I looked and the guy was like kind of like running behind, and I was like, did this guy really like try to like steal it?
You're gonna have to keep chasing
No way, that was never gonna work.
But kind of crazy at the same time.
Yeah, I think that was like a pretty funny little story.
Yeah, I bet there's a few of those lurking around. What was your favourite trip to go on out of all of them?
Well, most places I had already been to before. I think maybe like we did the trip to the Caribbean, to Union Island, and we were there for like a month, and then got to go on the Caribbean kite cruise, like on that catamaran trip for like a week. That was pretty cool, but not so much for the kiting. The kiting was just like average light wind, nothing really going on. But like the whole like
vibe of it,
like the island, and just like, I don't know, just being on your board shorts and swimming in like crystal clear water, and just, I don't know, foiling around and sailing with a cat, and that was like pretty
good experience.
Yeah, I'd never been on like a fully like Caribbean style trip, so that was pretty cool.
I guess often you end up just chasing the wind, and so often people just go to the same sort of group of locations, and you go there again and again and again and again and again. Sometimes it's nice to do something completely different.
Yeah. And it's funny, like that area and those spots, it's like insane how many people go there just because you can kite in like such pretty locations, although the quality of the kiting is not necessarily like that good. It's just pretty, you know? Yeah. It's not like good kiting. Yeah. But I mean, it's pretty sick to like kite around.
Just cruising around, looking about, going, this is beautiful.
Yeah, I think that was probably like one of my favorites. And then also like for Aaron's part and Stefan's part, and I guess Tom a little bit, I went to Austria with Stefan for like a weekend just to like shoot some B-roll for his like storyline, and went to the UK went to London with Aaron and like shot a little bit of like B-roll by the Big Ben and fucking, you know, drinking
Cool
tea
stuff,
and stuff, and like making him look English. And yeah, I think that was pretty cool too, just to like get to
some of the different
do
stuff.
a little bit of different stuff. Yeah,
see people in their own habitat.
Yeah.
And you're involved in this Not Future project with Alexander James Lewis Hughes, and you've just done an edit with Ewan out here, which has been pretty good. What's the idea behind that?
We're not so sure yet, to be honest, but it's just like it's like the whole idea, or like the movement behind it, is the fact that kiteboarding's gone so stale in like content wise, if you want to say it like that. Like everyone's just doing their
Brazil
GoPro
video.
mount, megaloop video in Cape Town, driving the buggy in Brazil. There's like no character, no like personality, nothing. So it's a little bit just trying to like portray the culture that is hidden behind that. Like no one really like shows, like in skating and snowboarding and surfing, every sport has a culture, and everyone just says that kiting doesn't have one, but that's not true. Like we do have one, and it's like our own, right? And no one really like focuses on that, or like shows who the riders are, and like what do they do apart from just kiting. And also just trying to like difference the good content and the good stuff from the bad stuff, the bad riding from the good riding. It just seems like now everything's just out there, and people have nowhere to like see or like pick what's good or what's bad. Everybody just, you know,
sends it out.
Just gives each other compliments for how good their stuff is, even if it's not. And like, I don't know, like back in the day we used to have Kite Scoop, you know, and you would go in there and just have good wave riding and good park riding and good freestyle and good big air or foiling or whatever, but only like the good stuff, not everyone's stuff. So it's kind of like an idea to like, you know, work on projects and little videos and interviews and just like get behind the scenes. And obviously we're part of the riders, so it's like fairly easy to like portray that.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see where we take it. It's just giving what we're doing a name, you know, or like a brand, and if people want to get behind it, and ideally it just turn into like a place where people can go and find the best of the best. Maybe there's nothing that comes out of there for like 2 months because nothing good comes out. It's fine, you know, like...
Yeah, you're not just going to churn content out for the sake of it, or hit a weekly deadline where you're publishing something all the time.
We don't have any investors to like, you know...
Keep happy.
Yeah, or anything.
Yeah.
It's just whatever.
We'll do it as your own kind of project rather than a brand saying, hey, you need this video by this date, it's got to go out, and you can just work on it.
Yeah.
What's your favourite thing to do, filming or kiting?
Depends on what I'm doing. If I'm kiting, I want to go filming, and if I'm filming, no.
That's quite a tough paradox. You're never happy.
No, it like balances out. Like if I'm like working on like video stuff for like a few weeks or a few days straight, then I'm like, I'm pretty excited to go for a kite session. And the same if you're like just kiting for like a month straight. Because I'm into so many other things, I miss them, and then I want to.
Yeah, it gives you that passion to want to go.
I get bored of kiting, and then I want to go do something else. So it's just a good balance, and the fact that I can just be in the same place and like do both, it's just perfect, really.
Helps.
So yeah.
Have you got any advice to anyone, you know, young kids who are thinking, I'd like to get into filming, and you know, how do I go about doing it?
I know it might sound like a little like cliche, but I've never really like thought, I'm gonna do this because then I'm gonna be successful, or like I'm gonna do that because it's gonna like work out and I'm gonna get paid for it. It's just like, I think if you truly do it because you like it and you're like genuine about what you're doing, and you like don't do it for the money, then it somehow works, you know, that like passion transcends into like people can tell if you're what reason you're doing it for, you know. So like if you're making your movies or whatever and like trying to like have success in the kite industry, and that's why you're doing it because you want success, then I mean maybe it works out, but it's probably not, because you're just gonna be boring and stale, you know. But yeah, for me, I've just always done whatever I felt like doing, not what people have wanted me to do. Obviously within certain restrictions, you know, because you can't just fully do whatever you want. See if now I just grabbed and went on a 3-month surf trip and came back, there'd be nowhere to come back to. But you know, yeah, you just gotta keep your like brands and sponsors happy and do your own thing and be different. I think that's probably like what's most important. Just do something different than everyone else, and then you're gonna be interesting and people are gonna wanna support you or like you know, get involved. If you're just doing the same thing everybody else does, why would a brand wanna back you if they already have people doing that, you know? You just have to be exclusive in a way, or
make yourself stand out.
Yeah, I think that's what's most important. And these days it's pretty hard with like what we were saying about the competitions and stuff. Not only everyone competing is competing, they're also just riding the same and doing the same tricks, apart from a handful of them. So for brands, it's kind of like almost pointless to just support someone who's just competing unless they're winning or doing super creative different stuff outside of like the comps. And same goes with everything. Like if you're creative and doing different stuff and just being yourself and different, then you'll probably be sweet.
You'll end up with a good path, and do it because you love it.
Yeah, exactly. Don't do it for the money. If you want money, go play tennis or something.
Go and kick a football around. Yeah. No, that was good. I enjoyed that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
There we have it, episode 11 in the bag. I hope you enjoyed that one. Noè's an interesting character, and that brings an end to all of the episodes I recorded whilst I was in South Africa. I finally got them all online, so I'm pleased about that. I've got some really good episodes in the bank. I went to Hood River at the end of last year and spoke to some interesting people, and I think as a little treat to myself and to you, I'm going to put probably my favourite podcast up as the next one that I release, which was with a guy called Rob Whittle, and he is a very interesting character indeed, and subsequently a little bit of a hero of mine. You might not have heard of him, but when that episode drops, be sure to check it out because it's pretty mind-blowing, some of the stuff that he's been up to. Anyway, thanks for listening to the podcast. As ever, please give this a like on social media, share it with your friends. Thanks a million for all the positive reviews you put up on Apple. That really helps. And just spread the word and get it out there. The more people that are listening to it, the more it encourages me to keep recording episodes. I haven't recorded any in a while because I've still got a backlog I'm working through, but I'm currently in France, so there's a good chance I'll get a few done whilst I'm out here with some of the characters that I'm meeting along the way. Anyway, it's almost springtime. We're into March, so fingers crossed the weather starts warming up and we can all get back in the ocean without quite as much rubber on over the next few weeks. Enjoy your week. I hope you have a good time. And I will be back soon with another episode. Thanks for listening to me, Ruchater, and the Intriguing Beings podcast.